All right, we are here again with another episode of Live Reality Games. We are diving into Survivor Michigan Season 3, Mazed and Confused. We're on episode 10, and for anyone who hasn't watched yet, you better watch because we're about to talk to the most recently eliminated player. Tonight with us is that person. We have Austin.
Hello. Austin. Coming to you live from my apartment.
We are so excited to pick your brain. I know I personally am. I know Naomi has to be. She is here with us, a huge fan and moderator of Live Reality Games. Naomi, what's up?
Hi. Yeah, I was saying to Austin before we got on, like, I was always looking forward to talking to him, but I was never looking forward to the actual moment where we were going to have to talk to him because it meant he was out of the game. Yeah, I'm doing well, except for, losing Austin.
And then if you have watched the season, if you have watched previous seasons, if you have been watching this podcast, you know Cooper. He is the host and the man who makes it happen. Cooper, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm glad to be back. I took a few weeks off, so I'm back at it now, though.
Awesome. Well, we are super excited to have you all here this evening, and we have so much to talk about with you, Austin.
All right. Thank you guys for having me.
No problem.
We are honored to have you.
Let me kowtow to you guys, like Naomi, like from one Buffalo alum to another, and all the work you're doing with Survivor New York. So excited for your new season. And just what you guys have been doing with this Facebook group, bringing all the college Survivor, all the LRGs together is never in a million years that I think the community would grow this big. So super, super excited to be here.
Yes. Shout out to Dustin and Kirk for doing all of that and getting us all roped in because it just makes the world sort of even more exciting to participate in. We are talking about episode 10 of Maized and Confused. Where do we even begin?
Yeah.
I guess,
like,
Austin,
do we want to begin?
Okay?
I was not okay.
Voted out and it went very emotional.
Okay. So
I've been there. We've all been there.
Yeah, this requires a lot of backtracking. Mm-hmm. So I was pissed, like, to say the least. Like, so the story is, and I think I've told some people like this story before. So we have to backtrack to week 3. We have to backtrack to Rock's week. We have to backtrack to the party. It's a long time ago. Mm-hmm. So if you remember, this is my very first college party ever. As a senior, as someone who lives under a rock, basically, this is a big deal for me. I was very nervous. No offense to Cooper and his parties, but it is not my scene. Mm-hmm. And so Aliza was very instrumental in me going there. She was very instrumental in convincing me to go. And, we met up beforehand. We walked there together. And after we had kind of debriefed everything with Andrew, and that's another fun behind-the-scenes story, we lost Cooper.
He'll be back. I'll add him.
So,
don't worry. We don't need him.
And the big thing was, she gave me a big hug. She's like, "Awesome, I'm so proud of you. I know that wasn't your thing." And I was like, oh my gosh, so few people recently had shown me that level of kindness, that level of empathy and support doing something I wasn't comfortable doing. And so I knew, if I didn't know then, I knew then that this was someone I wanted to play the game with, someone who we could build each other up. And she meant a lot to me as a friend. And so I was just to have her be kind of my safety net whenever I was you saw me week 9 with the demerge, I had called her I was like, Emily really wants me to vote out Devin. I need you to talk me out of this because I don't think it's a good idea. And I'm very close to going through with it. Right. And she was someone who was always reassuring me, always super supportive. And that just meant a lot to me, because she was a big super fan, I was a big super fan, and coming into this, one of the biggest things I wanted was to have friends who were super fans of Survivor, because that's something I didn't have back home, something I didn't have in my normal life. So losing someone in the game who I explicitly trusted, probably to my detriment, and seeing as like she was closer with Emily and Devin than probably me strategically and everything, it just sucked. And I put so much of my trust in Aaron, whereas the other three weren't as trusting from what I kind of perceived. And I was like so wanting to believe she was going to be with us. And then it felt like we all got backstabbed and it sucked. And like that triggered a lot of what I call the darkness in me. Like, I'll be honest, like my experiences with depression and anxiety are not positive. They rarely are. And so that triggered a lot of that back up within me. It had taken a lot to get to where I was at that moment. I was doing pretty well compared to recent years. And then it all kind of like 2 years of work kind of went out the window. So it wasn't my finest moment, to say the least. And I apologize profusely.
I think
it was a raw, real moment. You know what I mean? Like, that's you as a human.
Yes.
Travis and I have also seen like people behave way worse.
I could have gone
curse
off.
words.
I could have. I mean, I'm pretty sure I did mutter the phrase "You're all fucking dead." But
well,
yeah.
Listen, it was dramatic and it was perfect.
Yeah, look.
That's what happens.
What you said, like I think I said this. I'm pretty sure it was it's like Survivor's a game about humans, right? And humans as a species are flawed people. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important to show, especially with this season, how the game takes a toll on your mental health.
Yeah.
And I think go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think Eliza is a very, very like charismatic, comforting person. And like the stories you're telling and what we saw this whole season, we know that Eliza is like honestly someone people should model their games after. She is extremely a good listener. She's really good at talking to people. And I think always a good sign in Survivor games is when someone, like you said, sort of reaches out and says, I know that was hard for you. I know that you were struggling and I hope you're doing better, or what can I do to help? I think that always tells us as players, this person cares about me and how I do in the game because they care about me as a person. And so it's fully understandable because I out loud gasped when it was Eliza's name that was read. And not to mention, like, Aaron, the Aaron stuff, and we'll get even more into it because we're just at the tip of the iceberg. But Aaron is someone who, for a long time, has been kind of at the bottom, and we all care about Aaron. We want to make sure that she's sort of doing better. And then for her to sort of pivot and say, well, I'm actually going to go with these people. We've all been there. When someone flips on you, it hurts.
Yeah, and like my biggest thing was like, I've been where she was. I was bullied. I was treated like a rag doll before. And so for me, I was like, we got to show these people that, this behavior is not okay. Right. And then you can get into where the hypocrisy comes in. I was kind of a factor in her almost going home at the Chloe vote. I allied myself with Will and Emily P. So like you can call that out. But like for me, it was like I, up until that point, had treated her with the utmost respect, and I thought that like we were on the same page, that we were gonna go with the people who treated us well. But she made the move that she saw as best for her game. Obviously, wasn't the best for my game, but
Cooper, do you have a little bit more insight into maybe like why Aaron sort of chooses this side of Brady, Dylan, and Cassie?
Yeah,
the movie's great. Well, she says it. The movie's great.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of things, right? Like her now closest ally is Brady. So she's looking to find a way to take those two to the end. And so she needs a way to protect Brady and his allies at that point. As well as I think she's just kind of realized for a long time she's not in the best position with all those Sabu Sabu people and Will, who is basically a Sabu Sabu at this point. Like she just She liked those people, but she was like, I'm on the bottom over here. Like, I need to jump ship into this group of 4 that now, like, hey, I can go to the final 4 with these people. And at that point, it's like people are thinking it's a final 3 maybe. Like, she's like one challenge away from being at the end at Final Tribal Council on that side.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. Like, I think, and this is very much to my detriment, that it was my plans were very obvious on the outside. Like, it was like I was going to Pagong Tormenta, or Pagong Tafiti, Pagong Tormenta, go with Salvu Salvu to the end. In reality, I don't know if I would have done that. I think my small little burgeoning alliance with Paddock and Will could have gone somewhere. I don't think I would have won in either scenario. I think I probably would have gotten cut at 4 anyways, and in this case with the final 2, probably at 3. But like, I was trying to position myself where A, I would have options, and B, that this kind of front of being the, as you see, my new Chiron Sabu Sabu loyalist would kind of be a bit of a smokescreen. To be like, yes, I'm outwardly loyal to you guys, but as you saw, I did start to waver because I was like, I'm putting in my final 5 plan now at final 10, which is not good. So,
and I think it's totally valid in that if you guys do keep the power, the order in which you guys will start to pick each other off, if it's like 6, if Paddock and Emily B are still in the game, like, is totally up for grabs. It is not set in stone.
No.
I don't think we have, there is absolutely no way to tell for how that sort of shakes out. So I think it's totally, there's nothing wrong with saying, I know that this 6 will be a good move for me, or, how many people, I'm terrible at math. But at the same time, sometimes it is hard to, it's really hard to not show, like, hey, I really like these people and not these people.
As you saw with my meeting with Dylan, which was not, again, my finest strategic moment. Oops.
Well,
always name the person that you're talking to.
That's what I really want to dive into is, like, to me, you are a super fan. You understand the game. You understand the strategy. But you are also, like, one of the most, like, transparently emotional players I've ever witnessed play. And that's not an insult. It's very endearing. And it makes you an incredible storyteller. But I felt like I saw a constant struggle between what your brain was telling you and what your heart was telling you.
Yeah.
So what's that like?
It was not easy to deal with. I came into this game thinking I was going to run circles around everybody. I'm like, I've been blogging about Survivor. I know what I'm doing. And then I meet these people and I'm like, there's a point where after, especially like Rock's Tribal, and you have like the entire Tafiti tribe say, we don't like you. When you have this obvious divide, when it felt like very like, what did we do wrong? Why do you all hate us when you barely know us? And so it was very clear to me that like, I was going to be like Sugar from Gabon. I want the nice people to win. I want to get to the end. I want this game to be as fun as it can be. And within this cast, that was probably the wrong mindset. And I was trying to be strategic, but I'm listening to my heart too much. So I think had I been able to step back, get out of my head, get out of my emotions, and really reassess, things could have gone a lot better for me. But at that time, with where my mental health, my headspace was at because of the game, because of everything that was going on, that just wasn't happening. So,
well, also like Survivor on college campuses is a ton, like I've probably said this a million times. It's a lot like Big Brother, and I think that what we see a lot in Big Brother, we see a lot of people sobbing and crying over people on the block that they care about because. At the end of the day, you are very closely connected to these people and you respect them and respect them in a way that you don't respect maybe the people you aren't working with. Yeah. And so there is such a powerful connection that you don't want to vote out the people you dislike. You don't want to vote out the people that you're friends with.
And it was like, it was so complicated because I felt like to everyone I was working with, I owed some sort of debt to. Like, I, by all rights, should have been the first boot, but I wasn't. I, by all rights, should have gone out the second we lost the Hot Pursuit Challenge, if not for Will and Emily flipping to save me, and especially after I almost bungled that vote entirely. And I should have been out at Rocks. I joke with Andrew, he shouldn't have flipped. He shouldn't, or he should have flipped. He should have flipped. And like, there's so many times and so many people saved me that I'm just like, it's so hard because you don't want to piss anyone off because you want their vote at the end. And so that was a very tough thing to weigh. There's so many lines you have to balance in this game, and like, I just wasn't able to do it. Like, if I get to play another game again, I think I might be able to do better with that. Who knows? Results might vary.
I just want to pitch to you Survivor Michigan grad school, and you just do that and do with it what you will. But I'm just
all grad students.
So Travis, what did you think going into post Eliza vote out? Were you gagged? Were you shocked that Eliza was the one who was voted out?
Oh, I have to say, as someone who's watched Survivor for years and years and years, deep down I was not shocked. I was hopeful that it was not her. But in terms of doing like that Survivor math of like, there's option A, there's option B, there's option C, I think they threw it around enough. But I think when it played out, it was like, she's very threatening. And, Austin, Devin, and Will all kind of had a persona about what they might be like in the final tribal council that was very different from what her persona was if she were at final tribal. So I think that made her stick out more than, because everyone had their own weird way that they kind of stuck out. But I think that was probably the reason that they were leaning towards that the most. And she's just so like endearing. Like she makes you drop your guard, and she is sincere, but like she's still in game mode. And so even though she's making a genuine connection, she's still collecting information, and she's still going to use it to her benefit. So she is like a really amazing player. Definitely missed out on that interview last week, but I think that was so smart of them to get rid of her. I just don't know how much of it was pre-planned or how much of it was adapting to what Dylan did at Tribal there.
Cooper, can we talk? First of all, loved this twist. I thought this twist was fucking hilarious. And let's talk about Dylan's choice to steal, because we talked about it a little bit last time. But what Eliza had said was that they always had all of these plans. If Dylan steals, we vote out Brady. If they share, we vote out Cassie. And so it was, the vote never was Aaron. It was always going to be one of the three of them. So was Dylan's choice to steal really just him being like, well, Brady needs to go at some point?
Yeah, I think Dylan chooses to steal there basically because he doesn't want the votes on Cassie. He's kind of been clued in on like the other side, whoever is available, like this is how they're voting. And he's like, I kind of want Brady gone at some point. Like votes on Brady are fine by me. Votes on Cassie are not. And so Aaron's kind of the one flipping, flopping in the middle and telling both sides like, hey, I'm with you. Hey, I'm with you. And Dylan and Devin connect, and they are legitimately unsure which side she's going to vote with. So you kind of have Dylan being like, if Aaron isn't with us, I want this to be Brady and not Cassie, right? So he's like, if Aaron's with us, we're good either way. We're good either way. She's got her idol, whatever. But if she's not, this vote, like votes cannot go on Cassie. And so I think that is overall why you kind of saw him steal, was to protect his thing with Cassie and be like, I'm so willing to just throw Brady to the wolves if need be.
Totally. It's such a great, like, finally Dylan is making moves. Not that he hasn't been, but to see him make such a very bold move where Brady can't even be that mad because Aaron's going to play the idol and it's going to work out just darn fine for everybody. Like, especially considering, later Brady gets immunity, so he didn't need it. It's really funny. I loved this twist. And Austin, when Aaron plays the idol for Brady, like, what is going through your head?
Oh, I don't remember exactly, but
Blackout.
yeah. Oh, geez, it's very blackout.
Just put the buff over your face and pray.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't remember thinking it was going to be me, just because I thought I had positioned myself to where I wasn't much of a threat to anybody, though I was hoping that. Because my goal was always to make myself seem like I was less of a threat. Just like I want to be there. I'm like, I love the game. Maybe let my emotions be a bit of a smokescreen so that when I get to the end, I can be like, ha, I got y'all. Punked. But not so much. So I was pretty sure it was going to be Eliza at that point because, like you said, like she's the biggest threat. She's so good at the game, and it made perfect sense. I think Brady said, cut off the head of the snake. Almost there are times I'm like, I wish they took the shot at me, just because then I probably wouldn't have raged. But I think it's such an interesting move, and with the prisoner's dilemma and everything, I think it's amazing that it really went their way so well, and then Brady winning immunity also I was so close. I was in the lead for most of that challenge, and so yeah.
Austin, so we're post Eliza's vote out.
Yeah.
The world sucks. It will never be the same again. We see essentially Devin making a ton of moves. It's like you and Will kind of sitting there being like, what the fuck do we do? And Devin's the only one who's like, well, I did pack snacks, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
And you guys have to figure this out.
Right.
Did you have any idea that Devin was sort of maneuvering behind you guys?
No clue. And I wish he brought me in on that, because I'm like, that would have been such a good thing to be like, hey, like you have an in on the other side. We can actually like do some damage and get out under the like big threat's shadows here. But I was the concession they chose to make.
Who did you consider a big threat at that point?
Big threat was Aaron. And I'm kind of sad this didn't make it in week 3. So I had a color-coded spreadsheet, like day 1. Cooper's smiling, he knows. And so I had like shared it with my Sabu Sabu tribe. I'm like, so this is kind of like what I'm thinking. And this is like after the party, I compiled all the information we got. So it was our little dossier of info and intel. And I had a separate one that was just for me. And I outlined all of my targets and based on like my perceptions of everyone. And one of the only people who day 1 I had bright red eliminate ASAP was Erin, because I knew she was going to be a massive social threat if she got too far. And so there I let my guard down too much, and I didn't take the shot that we could have multiple times. And that, I think, is one of the things that got me in the end. Is like I had this sinking feeling and I never acted on it. So it was Erin mostly, especially after that move. The story she had, like, that's a very big. There's some big talking points if you get to Final Tribal. I also thought like Brady was a big threat just because he was so charismatic and people liked him. But I think you see like Eliza saying like, oh, he hasn't done this much. Oh, he's been on like wrong side of votes, yada, 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 yada. And so like, there's that too.
I mean, he can't even put a goddamn shirt on. Like, how's he going to win Final Tribal Council?
Yeah, exactly. Like if this was doing shirtless confessionals, he wins by a mile, right? So
his confessional it must just be through the his edgic must just be through the roof because he's shirtless.
Oh yeah, I bet. And like edgic people, if he's not like CPPPP5 because he's shirtless, like, I don't know. But there's that, and then I didn't think Will was going to be as threatening because just the paranoia, the Will syndrome, as it was called, all of that, and like I thought that was actually something really good on his part because he was thinking every angle. And I really appreciated that.
Has anybody photoshopped a Will onto Syndrome from The Incredibles yet? Just for the
I don't
I
know,
haven't
but
seen it.
Okay, look, Emily at Paddock, I know you're listening. You should do that. Okay.
not saying that was a super villain, but that's a funny.
He's not a bad guy, but
No,
Will
Will
that's all I
is
can think of.
such a good person. He's like my big bro I never had. We had a lot of good like talks about life and stuff after the game. So good dude.
Nice. So Cooper, can you tell us a little bit more about what Devin is doing behind the scenes and sort of watching it play out, what you were thinking at the time?
Oh yeah, Devin is just gathering info. Like he is sitting back. People basically have just forgotten about him in the game, and he is just like, all right, I need to go to the end with somebody who also is like kind of sitting in the back, hasn't really made a ton of moves. And for him, he found that a few weeks ago and was like, this is Dylan. Like we're good. We've like bonded outside of this. So he's hearing all these things about what the other side is doing. Aaron didn't actually like use her idol, and he's keeping it to himself. He like obviously Austin was like, I wish he would have like come to our side and been like, I have an in, but the reason he didn't do that was like he didn't want to go to the end with anyone on his side. He was like, I can't beat any of them. I need to find somebody else to go with. So it was very intentional on his part, and you kind of see that through these last few episodes of he's been purposefully sitting back, laying low, not being a target, and now he has inroads with this group that has now kind of like just taken power. So I think for his road, like this is exactly how he would have planned it.
I was on the Devin train early. I never vocalized it, but I was like, I like Devin a lot, and I hope he goes far. And look at him now. We're all so proud.
Yeah.
Travis, did you have any thoughts on like the strategy before the challenge? You know, everybody's kind of scrambling. What if you were in like the position of maybe Will, Devin, and Austin? Did you have any idea what you might do as a player?
Well, me personally, I would kind of just be like very much like Devin. I think every man for themselves, sorta. Like I think Will was similar that way. I think, you know, you can try to scramble and pull somebody over at that point, but if you know your fate's kind of sealed, you want to just buy yourself another week. So I thought it was really smart of Will to just kind of come forward with this advantage and stuff because you're going pretty much straight into voting and you don't want to leave this bad taste into people's mouth about something, as silly as a little bit of information. So I think you have to really be smart and make quick decisions in a tribal council like that. And it can be pretty cutthroat, especially at this stage of the game, because, you really just got to get to that next week.
Mm-hmm. And
I would not have played how Austin played.
No. And we can talk about that, but no, don't do what I did.
Cooper, was there an idol re-hidden after Aaron plays hers?
Oh,
that's it. No more idols for you.
I mean, I guess I can't say anything about future episodes, but there was not an idol re-hidden at this point. No.
Right. So anybody out there at 2 a.m. in the quad is just making an ass of themselves for no reason.
Yes. I mean, you can still play like you have an idol. Like it wasn't like public knowledge that there just like wasn't one out there at that point.
Right. Amazon.com, guys.
Right. Exactly. And we kind of wanted the same thing with throwing the advantage in. Like we're like, it's not a huge advantage. Like we kind of knew it was going to be like, oh, maybe it'll shift the end game a little bit, just in the sense you have to plan for a final two. But the biggest thing we were hoping for was that like whoever gets this, we know tribals in like 20 minutes. Like nobody else knows what that advantage is. Like Will could have easily been like, this is a steal vote. Like we've got the numbers now. Like what do you guys want to do? You know what I mean? Like so we wanted to make people make quick decisions and kind of just see what they would do with it. And Will kind of plays the safer route of let's just make sure this isn't me. Like I'm just going to be straight up with people. But there was a whole other route that I actually think if we had given Will a few days and he like goes home and sits on it, maybe he comes out and like fakes something with it and being like, this is what I have, which just has nothing to do with what it actually was. So but we wanted to make people make kind of like a split-second decision about like, this is my choice. I have to go out in the hallway right now and start talking to people.
Yeah. Brought me back to a lot of just like day-long park games. Just feeling, I got a piece of paper, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have
Austin,
so little time to make a decision.
Oh.
So it's like I really think that would have been very interesting to see, Cooper, because I think you can do anything with a piece of paper, but your instinct is to just be like, oh well, there's words on it, I better do what it says, you know.
Yep.
Austin, walk us through your strategy here of
Yeah.
now it's the three of you. What were
Mhm.
you feeling at the time?
My thing was like, A, okay, this is not good. B, I was hoping that the fridge benefit to me raging at everyone was that I made myself look like less of a threat because I shot any remaining social capital I had, right? So thinking, oh, down the line, I can kind of spin that to be a good thing. And so then I was like, okay, who's the biggest target right now? Who's the biggest threat remaining in the game who doesn't have immunity? Aaron. So, like, let's hope everyone else sees that because we're down to 7. And now that we know it's a final 2, we need to get rid of these threats, right? So I think I had the right idea, but I'm a terrible, like, salesman. And trying to appeal to people's sense of fairness and, like, let's just go 3-3. Let's figure this out. Like, we'll duke it out from there. What the hell was I thinking? Again, I plead like my head was not in a good space at that point still, card. But like, oh my gosh, like I was an idiot.
I have to say that was exactly the same thing that I did in Survivor Buffalo season 1, where I was like, "Can we just vote Andrew up for the love of fucking God?"
Yeah.
And of course, that's a terrible move for the other side to make. But I'm just like, I don't know. Let's just vote Andrew. I'm tired of Andrew. And
Yeah.
you just kind of were like, let's even the playing field. It's the Rob sister, kill the swing. But it doesn't work in certain contexts. And I don't think it's the worst move.
And my biggest thing was like I was always trying to get everyone to do what was better for me but not for them. So like backtracking a little more to the week we voted out Ben, I was really pushing to vote Ben out instead of Brady, which I think was kind of the first nail in the coffin for my trust levels with Sabu Sabus because they were all really wanting Brady out. And now looking back, I'm like, obviously we should have taken a shot against Brady. But I was like, we got to keep these tormented numbers so that we're not back in the minority. Because we had spent like the entire pre-merge getting shat on. And now that we finally had a little traction, I didn't want to lose that. And so I was like, okay, we'll scratch your back. You guys scratch our back later. Then demerge hits. We can't really scratch anyone's back because I have to vote out one of my allies. And so, like, my biggest thing was always trying to maneuver it so that I could get them to make the move that'll benefit me in the long run. And of course, under the pretenses of fairness, it's not exactly the right move. I think had I been a little more harsher with my like, this is exactly why we need to get her out. This is the best time to do it. Like, there's no way any of us can beat her. Like, you could beat me, but not her. Like, if I had played it like that, that might have done it. But also, like, look at who I'm pitching to. I'm pitching to Brady, thinking the like 2 times I met with him and the 2-hour conversation I had with him at the party about stuffed animals and Pokemon had a semblance of like strategic like relationship. Pitching to Cassie, who I had never met with, pitching to Dylan, who I had only met with once. Like, it was just not going to happen. And so then, you know, the rest is history, and Will and Devin get the drop. It's me, and they drop me. I wish that like we could have figured something out and like we could have taken a shot at someone else. But
yeah, I do think the difficult part here is that like I think also Will to an extent still feels a little guilty about what happened with Erin, and so to vote Erin out, even though she is the biggest threat, I think he doesn't have the heart to do it in 15 minutes.
Right,
maybe
and
if it was a full week, he would have the heart to do it.
And that could have also been like a bad move for him on like a jury front. Like, would Erin vote for him if like he backstabbed her again? Like any of that. So like there's so much that goes into those 15 minutes. And like you see the elevator room confessional I'm doing with Matthew Israel. I'm like, you can see the wheels are turning, and I'm like, no one said my name, so it could be me. It's probably me. Like, so I totally saw it coming. And like, there was not a lot I could do. Had I had more time and I could like continue to start decompressing a bit more, I maybe could have turned it around, but I don't know.
Were you relieved though?
Yeah, you can see it on my face. I was so just, I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
It was like this blissful, I don't have to deal with this. The reality of the situation though is, and like on the jury, you're still playing the game, right?
Yep.
The game, for me, the game didn't end until honestly about a couple weeks ago, and I could finally verbally say I can let all of this go as in the past, right? Yeah. So it's taken me a very long time to get to this point where I can say I don't have to beat myself up over it. Like there was such a good quote. I don't know if you guys have been reading on Entertainment Weekly, Dalton Ross's quarantine questionnaires. So he did one with Chrissy Hoffbeck from Here's Who Is Hustlers a while back. And she said, like, I had finally got to live my dream, and then I started feeling like a fraud, and like I wasn't worthy. And that's exactly how I was feeling after the game. I was like, I don't deserve to call myself a super fan, right? And so I beat myself up over it. I overanalyzed every single move, and now I can just say, like, hey, it's in the past. And all the emotional turmoil it gave me, all the negatives, like there are positives I can take away from that. That's what I focus on. So yeah. I was relieved that it was over, but that was just the beginning. And so I'm a bit saltier now though, where I'm just like, why did you give me up so easily, guys? Mm-hmm. Like we could have like was I like, I don't know, Cooper, you can answer this. Was I that big of a threat?
A little bit. People just weren't sure what the jury. You were more of a wild card. I would say that's the better description for it, right? Like people weren't sure what the jury was going to do if you were at the end, whether they would respect your game as like a super fan and be like, he really deserves this, he really wants this, mm-hmm. or whether it would go a different route where they would be like, I don't know what he's done, blah blah blah. So I think they saw you more as honestly like a wild card, and I think they had really bonded in that past week, Devin and Will specifically, right, where they were like, I don't want to turn on you, and that leaves basically one person.
Yeah, right. Which sucks because I didn't want to turn on either of them, and I almost turned on them.
And Cooper, my thought while I was watching, and maybe you can confirm or deny, is that because we see Austin be so passionate about who he is working with, that the idea of him flipping maybe feels temporary to some people, where, Austin will flip to us and maybe we'll vote out Aaron, but will Austin flip back to Will and Devin immediately and we'll go to Rox again? Like when I was watching, I think the jury thing is a really good point. The other thought was you care so much about the people you're working with that how can you ever care that much about if I'm Cassie or Dylan? How can you ever care that much about me? And sometimes I think it's the disadvantage of being emotional, but also at the same time, there's an advantage to somebody who you can really appeal to their emotions. That's like just as fun of a part of Survivor as anything else, is saying, hey, like I care about this game. Don't vote me out. I want to be here so bad.
And that's like the pitch Emily was making when she was trying to get me to keep her. And I was this close to going with her, but then that breeds the question: would that have even mattered? Because Will and Eliza were close enough where does Will probably vote Emily regardless, and I'm completely irrelevant that week, right? So, like, there's so many layers to everything, and the emotional layer is so interesting because it was my plan to make that my greatest superpower. It also was my greatest weakness, and so that's the very double-edged sword of it.
It's the beauty of Survivor, right? We use our strengths, and then we realize that nobody likes us, and we thought everybody liked us for being a good talker, and the world spirals, and you lose face at everything. Like,
I mean, and let's be honest, like, I exceeded my expectations in so many ways. Like, I won 2 rounds of Steal the Bacon. What? Like, never in a million years would I have imagined that? And then like winning immunity in the demerge challenge like was pretty big, racking up record tying 18 votes over a season, which was the most at the time of any male first-time player in Real Survivor.
Look at you, Stat King.
By fellow 7th place strategic god Christian Hubicki. So he was a big. So David versus Goliath was airing right at the time of.
Oh wow!
So he was a big inspiration for me as the season was playing out. Like him and Gabby, I was like, oh my gosh, they are me. So there's that, and just like there's so much that I was like, I got to play Survivor, and it doesn't matter that like I didn't play it amazingly or all that. It's like in the end, I don't feel like a fraud about it.
You are so hard on yourself.
I am. That's the problem.
Well, Austin, one thing I have to know, because we all know that the merge part of the game is different than the team part, and when you're on tribes, you know, the dynamic is totally different than when you're at the merge stage. But one of the biggest things is that when you're in a team state or tribe state, there's potential for downtime. Like you can win and have all this time to relax, to regroup, to refocus. And when you're in the merge state of the game, you really kind of forfeit that unless you're like super duper in power or something like that. But for the most part, everybody still has that inability to like turn off. And I think what we saw from you was just that kind of thing catching up to you. We saw it similarly, I think, with Ben, even on some level, where it was just like fatigue. You can see it in real super fans, because they look at that.
Sorry.
Hey Andrew, miss you, buddy. You should have flipped.
Well, we'll see.
You see it in super fans for sure, because their brain does not turn off. You are at college campus. I know that you are spending nights just thinking of everything.
Oh yeah. Let's also not dance around the fact that so much of this is way past my bedtime, and it was a running gag that I was like, "This is too late for me." And it's a miracle I did so well in my classes. Not to toot my own horn, but it was a miracle I managed my classes on top of this. But also, like, I wasn't meeting with people and texting people the level like Will was or anything. One of my biggest regrets is I didn't meet with people enough. Like, I didn't have as much like one-on-one time. Like, I only met with Eliza maybe twice one-on-one.
Wow.
Like, most of my meetings were like as a Savu group, stuff like that. Like, and so that was one of my biggest pitfalls, I think, is I was relying too much on fewer conversations and fewer events that colored my perception of things, where there was so much more I wasn't doing and so much more I wasn't privy to. But
that's very interesting. Cooper, who, I know this is very hard to kind of say, but who would you say was actually sort of one-on-oneing the most in the end game? Like who was really coordinating, like, I'm going to meet with this person, this person. Is it like Devin? Like he's just sort of like puppeting everywhere.
I would say towards the end it was Will. Will for sure was always willing to meet with everybody. Aaron was also pretty good about trying to really sit down one-on-one with everybody. And I think probably the next two I would actually throw in were maybe Brady and Dylan were probably the next level of people. But also at that point, it's kind of like, how many people are you even talking to, or are your closest allies, like Austin, like, are a lot of them already gone? Like, there's no Eliza, there's no Emily B anymore. Like, now he's kind of like, the people that he would normally have those one-on-one conversations with aren't even there. So, like, just by that, he's having less conversations than he normally would.
I didn't branch out faster. Like, I didn't branch out really at all, but I should have branched out a lot faster. Like, my first meeting with Dylan was what you saw, and I was like, I'm so sorry I haven't met with you until this point. Because I was going to meet with everyone when they, in Rocks Week, met with Sarah and Dylan. I was actually a bit sick that week, and so I wasn't able to meet with them. And I think that would have been a really good opportunity to start establishing those bonds, but I just didn't So,
Sure.
yeah,
Well,
a lot of
I think
mistakes.
it's a good pointer to anybody who is going to play College Survivor in the
Yeah.
future. I don't know how the
Meet
hell
with
that's
people.
going to work right now in 2020, but in the future, when you're playing College Survivor, like, get meeting with people and meet with as many people as you can. I think it's true in like orgs as well. You see it. You want to interact with as many people as possible so that when you get to that point, nobody wants to throw your name out there because they all feel connected to you.
Right. And that was kind of what I was going for.
Focus on your schoolwork, but
yes, please focus on your schoolwork. That's very important. But like, I was playing the game very slowly, and I think that's why I want to say something like Survive Buffalo is so much more my speed. I was I was thinking of everything very long form, when in reality it was a lot faster than I thought. So being in a much more enclosed environment as I was in Buffalo, and the game going faster made me kind of kickstart things a bit faster. But with this, with weeks, we really only had 1 week of downtime when we won. But that was really not even downtime because we were still trying to strategize. Yeah. But even then, with school and with everything, I do think I probably played it a little too safe and a little too slow in the meeting people department.
Sure. So let's talk about this challenge.
Yes.
We have to get it here because this also is a test of how you know people.
Yes.
Touchy subjects. You scream with joy.
So there's a story behind that. So once we got to merge, I was like, touchy subjects is coming up. And I messaged the Innovatrium, and I'm like, okay, guys, touchy subjects is coming up. We have to game the system. I'm going to go through every College Survivor season I can think of that's done touchy subjects, write down every single question that they've done, and let's come up with an answers for it so that we can always be in the majority. We can always win this, right? And of course, as the weeks go by, it's not touchy subjects. I'm really the only one kind of hammering in on this plan. And then my allies are gone, so it's not like we can really do much. Yeah. And so, I was very happy we were playing it at all because it's a classic and it was so cool to be able to play it. And then I'm in the lead for most of it, which was kind of surprising. And then it just slips away from me at the end. So I think had I won immunity, it would have been a really interesting thing, but alas.
Gaming the system is, I don't know how you feel about this, Travis. I explicitly make rules in Survivor New York to this cannot happen where, your plan is actually even more elaborate than what most people do, which is just, we're all going to write Austin for everything.
Yeah.
I understand.
Which would have been a much simpler plan.
Right. I hate that, but that's just as a producer where I'm like, no.
I hate you. I was desperate.
Of course. So, was there anything that didn't get shown, Cooper, that was hilarious, or did it all kind of make it in?
We showed every question that we did for touchy subjects. There were 15, and we showed all 15. Trying to remember standout moments from that. The one that comes to mind immediately is Brady winning the whole thing by being I'm the biggest threat to win, which was just hilarious in general.
I thought that was
fun. In the bag, and then Brady was right about himself. Oh, it's hilarious.
Who did Will say?
Did you say Aaron?
I think he said Aaron. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cooper, do you remember what question was, or was it even a question of the llama? Do you remember Brady's llama drawing?
I think he just kind of drew that on.
That just sticks out in my head as a fun.
I don't.
Too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the little things.
And I think also first of all, the shout out to Lucy, that just the flashback.
Oh, that was perfect.
Killed me. But I just think that these challenges are so fun to do because it just lets everybody know what is going on. And I'm hoping that we see some of it in the next episode. We see some of the ramifications possibly. But Austin, do you remember anything jumping out to you as oh, I can't believe people think this way?
No, my thing is I never saw the warning signs. The challenge before when we were picking partners, Aaron picking Brady first. I'm like, how did I not notice that? Right? Like, nobody picking me. Like, how did I not notice that? Like, there's so much that I'm like, oh my gosh, I was an idiot. But no, I think the basics was it like who's most likely to stab you in the back, and someone put me, and I was like, seriously? I think it was Dylan who wrote me, and I was like, what? So I kind of remember that as being like the weird moment. But,
Dylan and Cassie's wild guesses in the dark were my favorite part of this challenge.
I think that was like funny because like my perception of them as like I was playing the game was like they were like not really doing a whole lot, and so that also like finding out that like as we're watching this like that there was a whole Devin and Dylan thing and that Cassie was doing some stuff. I was like, oh, like had no idea. So it was a really interesting thing to see how much touchy subjects can tell you, but also how much it can make you comfortable when things are shaping up to align with your perceptions, even if your perceptions are wrong, especially if your perceptions are wrong. So
perception is true.
Perception is reality, but how much of reality is
you're
perception?
just wrong. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Liz. Shout out to Liz. You're awesome. Thank you for all the love.
So, Cooper, why do you hate your players so much? This is my question. Why would you do this? First of all, the vote to give someone an advantage was hilarious. But then you're also, I think I said in the YouTube comments, I just picture you like the Elmo meme where he's just like got the fire behind him. He's like watching. That's what I think of you when I watch you in my head when you're producing this game. That's what I think you're doing. So what the hell was this decision? Why do you want to torment them so badly?
We just wanted chaos. Like this was planned from the start. Like at Final 7, like we're just gonna throw this twist at them. We know 7 is kind of like it's getting down to like 7 and 6 are kind of big votes usually, and so we knew there may be a couple like immunity necklaces at it just from like the twist of the round before, and so we were like, touchy subjects will have just happened, so people might be like freaking out about what their name got put for, or who was thinking what of them. And so we're like, we just basically want to give them like information overload. We're going to throw even an advantage. And this is where we're going to really see who can play like a shortened game of Survivor. Like this was our week to be like, all right, like we've seen you now play over a couple months, but let's make you play in like 20 minutes and see who can like really survive this. So we kind of just want to like change gears for a sec and like really like turn the heat up, honestly. And it was fun to watch. So
Travis, did it give you like double eviction vibes?
Yeah, absolutely. It reminded me of that speed round they do on like the Real Big Brother, where it's just like all this happened the whole week in one moment, and the chaos. I think they did a good job of trying to capture it, but I'm sure it was 10 times more chaotic than what we even saw.
We're all darting throughout Mason Hall.
Oh yeah, like it was popping into rooms, popping out of rooms, just literally just running up to a group of 3 people who you would normally just never do that, right? Like if you were like at a group of 3, like 3 people just talking, like you would never feel comfortable enough to just like run up to them and be like, what are you talking about? Like, right? Like the 3 people would look at you like you were a crazy person. But in this format, you kind of just had to be like, I need to be talking to somebody right now, and there's a group, I just need to go butt in on their conversation. So it was just people like darting in and out, doing confessionals, talking to everybody. And so, yeah, it was as much as you could kind of see people running around and all the different shots, like it was chaotic.
Now we're going to take a quick diversion to answer Andrew's question, which is Austin Cooper, without giving anything away, who do you think overall was the best player on our season? And I'm going to guess that the next sentence should be, and why is it Andrew?
Andrew is probably 18th out of 18 for me. I'm trying to rank the other 17 really quick.
Nick
I'm going to go.
Oh, wow.
That's such a good question.
Crouch knows I love him to death. I'm going to go with Eliza. I think I'm going to go with Eliza. I just think she, no matter whether she was on the bottom, on the top, like she was always trying to do the most to make sure that she was good and all of her allies were good. If she were to ever make it to the end, like it was basically like surefire she was going to win, and maybe that was the one fault in her game, was that she almost like became too much of a threat. But at some point, like that is hard not to do when you're such a good player. So I think just all around, I would go with Eliza. There's a couple other ones that I would maybe throw in there, but Eliza's
obviously me, right?
Yes, of course.
I would throw my hat in for Eliza too. I can't sing her praises enough in game and game. She was absolutely just a strategic genius with the week 2 stuff, with week 4 with the fake idol stuff. Like, I mean, I had my grubby hands in that, but that was just an awesome move on her part to be able to sell that and then be able to pull a Joe Mena in HHH and just be like, I read you guys, I'm playing this on me and we're good. Like, it was, oh my gosh. And yeah, I think our biggest thing is probably threat mitigation, which is, like you said, hard to do. I want to throw a little honorable mention to Emily P as well. I think she was playing extremely well pre-merge. I think post-merge she just got screwed by the demerge, and I think had the Ben Bomb not happened, had the demerge not happened, I think she would have been in an absolutely phenomenal spot to make a run for it. I think if that happens, she might be able to get me to flip. And she might be able to use me really well. So I think she's been doing really well there.
So as someone who has gotten my ass kicked by Emily Paddock, I just have to say that, like, she's incredible. And I think what I loved most about playing with her and then sort of realizing, because you're like, oh, this girl is so nice. Oh my God, she's so sweet and she's so young. I remember being young once. What a trip. And then you're like, holy shit, this bitch just got me. And I think that's what I like really respect about Paddock, is she has such an ability to look at you and you feel like she's listening to you and she trusts you. And then she's immediately going to dog your ass. But it's fine.
That's why I was so worried. When she was like, I will do like whatever I can. And we joke about it now. And she was like, yeah, I was totally telling the truth. I would have done whatever you wanted me to do. And I was like, I believed it, and then I didn't. Because I was like, you have to be working some angle. You have, like, I said in my voting confessional, I'm like, you're charming the hell out of me. And I was like this close to flipping on Devin. Whether that would have been the better move, I don't know. Whether it would have, like I said, been irrelevant anyways. But I think, like, if you haven't seen Survivor Buffalo Season 1, go watch that for Naomi and for Emily, and also for Sarah from Season 1. And if you haven't seen Survivor Buffalo Season 2, to watch Emily host the game and be an awesome host and see yours truly play as well. Go for it. 2 great seasons. We love Survivor Buffalo. So.
And spoiler alert, Sarah and Emily make a return in Survivor New York Season 4. Okay, moving on.
Sarah also played Season 2 of Buffalo too. So
that's right.
Yes.
And Liz is correct. We're impressed that Eliza made it that far, because Eliza's target felt like it kept growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, and she was my biggest shield. I was like, as long as people think she's like the biggest threat, like that's one person in front of me. And as much as I hated that, because I was like, that means people are going to take her out before me, which I obviously didn't want to happen. But like,
I have to say, I have a completely different viewpoint on who I think's playing the best game.
Yeah.
I think obviously the 2 points you guys are making are really good, because those are like the obvious strong players. But I think you have to look at each individual and what their journey has to be to get to the end, to evaluate if they're a good player and how good of a player they are. And even though this person is absolutely awful at confessionals, I have to put my money on Dylan, because he has really just navigated his way through this game almost completely unscathed. He's a huge physical threat. He's charming. He's well-liked. And somehow he's kind of, like Cooper said, like almost at a Devin status of like in the shadows. And to be able to do that when you're someone who is jumping off roofs, you know, on your downtime. Like, I think that says a lot to his game. And I think even when you see in those very early confessionals where he's kind of like doesn't want to do him in front of his bros or whatever, he is, to me, seems like he's that like he's a chameleon. He's a different face to everybody. And Survivor is kind of that culmination. And he does a great job of blending all those faces so that they don't come back to like, you know, kind of, you know, share notes and see like, is this Dylan? You know, and he made a huge move here towards the end, I think, with the Brady whole situation. So I'm just really curious to see how things go with him moving forward, because I think you underestimate him because his, you know, confessionals are just, you know, but he's smart. And
I mean,
Well-
he's a boss, and he has a lot under going on that I couldn't get past the cowboy hat.
Cooper,
Right.
my thought was like, I think Dylan has a great BS radar. He's really good at identifying when people are lying to him, and Dylan is also very good at being like, I just need to chill out, and I just need to do this and this, and I'll be fine. He's not panicked, and he has a good BS radar. And I think, like Travis, those are great points. Maybe Cooper, I'm wrong, but that to me was always what stood out about Dylan in the way he plays.
Yeah. Oh, his personality just fits Survivor so well. Like he's naturally just drawn to him, right? Like he's funny, but he doesn't like stand out, and he doesn't need to be the center of attention. He doesn't really always want to be the center of attention, which is good, right? He doesn't have a target, but people still like him. And like you said, like he has this kind of BS radar. But he's not the person that needs to call everyone out when he sees that. He's like, okay, I'll take that information. I'll store that. I know that that's not actually what you're doing, but I don't need to do anything about it right now. Like that's for later. So he's very just like chill, go with the flow, and he's not going to make any rash decisions. So I think just his natural personality just fits Survivor so well.
What did you think when you got that confessional, though? Sorry, I just wanted to know, as a producer, you get the confessional where he's just like, all right, I'm going to hit you with a bunch of things at once. Well, were you like, all right, every episode, here we go?
No, this was actually something that I don't even know. This was totally something that happened in the like editing room. Like we were like trying to figure out how we can show Dylan's like character on the screen and what the best like representation of that is, which is so hard because Dylan's such like a specific kind of like person almost, if that makes sense. And we were like, we really like this confessional, and we were like, this confessional is so Dylan, and he didn't like. It's so hard to describe Dylan, but that confessional does it so well that we're like, this, we could show this a million times, and this is Dylan. And we're like, that's actually what we want to do, because the more you see this, the more you're like, that just is who he is as a person. It's just like, he would go into a confessional and not talk any game, doesn't care about anything. He's just like, I'm going to give them a minute of sound bites to throw in because I feel like it today. Like, it's just him.
Yeah, Austin, from your perspective, now that you're on the jury, first of all, I think, Cooper, you have a super exciting jury. You have all these characters and all these people who are extremely passionate about the game. So, like, it sucks to lose Austin, but at the same time, we are very privileged to have you on the jury. And especially, I'm sure you cared very deeply about, like, who you were giving your vote to and why.
Yeah.
So, knowing, I think we haven't even touched on the fact that it's a fucking final two.
No.
So let's rewind for a second. Cooper, why did you want to tell them that information, and what do you think that did to everybody's sort of brain in that time?
Yeah, this kind of goes back to the information overload we were just trying to give them, right? Like any kind of little thing we can do to like change up the game at this point, whether it's throw touchy subjects in, throw that it's a final two. We want to just like throw at a crucial vote, be like, all these things that you might have thought about the game are not true. So there was kind of that aspect to it. And we'd only ever done, like, just to take a step back, we'd only ever done final threes at Michigan. We were like, we just want to change that up. We don't want it to be like always set so that the future seasons like think they know what's happening.
Right.
And I think we just wanted to mix it up as well as like just throw another twist at them that they were just not expecting at that point.
Mm-hmm. And Austin, when you heard that, what were you thinking?
okay. I was probably going out, so I was like, whatever. But I'm guessing like you were gonna ask me like what I was kind of looking for.
Yes. So back to
Yeah.
the jury. What are you looking for in a winner? And also, when you're voted out, who do you kind of attribute your vote out to? And
Mhm.
do you give them credit, or are you mad at them?
So that's a very much like a in the moment and out of the moment, like in 2 years later. So what I'm looking for was the biggest thing was just like, were you consistently playing the game from the start? Like, I knew I was always playing. I was always trying to do something. Really, except for, I mean, the week I got voted out because I was just trying to lay low. And by a week, it was really like a couple days. But like, I was just trying to lay low after that. And so I think there's an aspect to where you need to be able to like take a step back, and you don't always have to be playing. My biggest thing is you don't always have to be making big moves. You just have to be making the right moves. So it's like, if you can explain your game, then if you can get me to believe you played the best game, that's great. Other thing for me is like, how did you overcome obstacles? How did you grow from it? Because that was something that I knew I was taking away. So like, just on a human level, that was something I was looking for. Because I think, especially watching Real Survivor, my favorite winners have been the ones who like are overcoming something, or who really come full circle. Like some of my favorites, like Adam, Michelle. Shout out anyone who loves Michelle as much as I do. That's a controversial topic, but yeah. So like, that's really what I was looking for. And then on the vote aspect, I was pretty sure that like it made sense that like probably Brady or Aaron would have had something to do with it. Just seeing that I was like very much not going to work with them by all like presentation. And then I initially, after the fact, thought that it was actually 5-2 and that Devin didn't vote me out. But then I found out otherwise. So I do attribute it to both Devin and Will mostly because they were able to sacrifice me to get themselves 1 week further at the very least. And like I said, I'm a bit salty about that. I wish they would have tried to fight to keep me in because I was going to most likely be loyal to them, even though that wasn't really what they believed. So again, that's on my end for being what I say. I'm going to say, like, and to all my allies, I'm sorry. I was a shitty ally. I was too emotional for any of your games. I think I tanked everybody. I take all the blame.
No, you can't take that all.
I like, look, if I wasn't there and I wasn't like just saying, oh, I like these people, it was so obvious that these were people who I felt comfortable with. Like that would have made like, because so many people seemed like they were intimidated by our foursome, when in reality it's like, yes, but how much do you really put stock in that when you have other strong groups forming as well? So
I think this is something that we see in all sort of reality games because the ever present target is easy for everybody else to say, well,
yes, like a charisma.
Exactly. You're
like,
always able to say,
so easy.
It's not me, it's her. Right.
Mm-hmm. But when there's a merit to not taking the easy way out versus taking the easy way out, like I firmly believe everyone took the easy way out to get me out, where you could have, instead of basically dropping me like trash, you could have scooped me up in my lowest moment and played on my emotions, like you said. And that would have been a really good move. Like, you know that I'm loyal to whoever's treating me with compassion and empathy, so use that to your advantage. They chose not to. So there's that. Does that answer the question in a roundabout way?
Yes. I mean, it's also very tricky because, we don't want to spoil anything and we
right, of course.
So we're trying to, as delicately as possible, be like, yes. Hey, what are you thinking of when you're voting?
Oh, yeah. So, like,
sure.
And I mean, these are the things I'd be thinking about regardless of who is beating me, who's behind me, any of that. So
yeah. Cooper, and Travis, I definitely want your input on this. Why cast Austin? What about Austin applying for Survivor Michigan made you say we had to have this guy on? I love hearing these stories about, like, oh, I did the application, I thought this about them. So what made Austin such a pick for you?
For every reason that you saw throughout the season. I mean, it was like I think you as a viewer could see from the first 5 minutes of Austin on screen, you all can tell why he was cast. It's the same reason for everyone on production, right? You interview him for 5 minutes, and I think Austin, out of anyone on this cast, could talk about Survivor for hours on hours and probably days upon days in a row. As well as his just kind of we've touched on it in kind of this hour or so of he's going to wear his emotions on his sleeves. He's going to let the audience know exactly how he's feeling. He's going to let everyone he's playing with know exactly how he's feeling. And that in itself is just really good TV. So all of those combinations are just instantly, it was of course we're going to cast this guy. There's no doubt.
And Travis, I've gotten this privilege to watch someone who cares so much about Survivor. When you're just, I love your insights so much, Travis. So when you're getting to watch Austin's game, what have you been thinking? What really stands out to you that makes Austin such a unique player?
I think Survivor tries to cast someone like Austin each season, and I don't know how you're going to take this, Austin, but I'm going to compare you a little bit to Nora.
Yeah. Oh, that's completely accurate.
In that you're going to be amazing no matter who you're around, because you're so unabashedly yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the double-edged swords of that personality trait is it's so endearing and people can trust you, but at the same time, people can read you.
Yes.
And so I don't know if you were able to gain enough control back, because I think kind of all your cards were laid out on the table.
Yeah.
And people had to choose, what to do with the information that you basically laid there for them. But you were amazing to watch. I love the passion that you brought to things. You're very perceptive. And I think, you make it, what we've said all the time when we do these is, you make it more than just a game. And it is just a game. But you made friendships, you made really personal bonds, and it was great to see how important those were to you. You know what I mean?
You can say it's just a game, but it wasn't. And I think that's the hardest freaking thing about this is the thing is I can comparing Buffalo, my experience with Buffalo, my experience with Michigan. For Michigan, I can never separate game and real life. But that's because it was so ingrained to real life. Buffalo was hey, I'm going on a road trip with Emily, we're going to Buffalo and I'm going to play this game for a couple days, right? And if I don't have to talk to these people again, I don't have to. Whereas here with Michigan, it was I want to be on production. I want to try to have a relationship with these people because this was my chance to have a Survivor community that I had been wanting for so long. You know how annoying it is to ramble to your parents about Survivor, and they're just hey, awesome, sure, cool, glad that you're enjoying it. So that's why it's crazy, and so yeah, I couldn't separate it, and some people did their best too, but I think with all of the nastiness and toxicity that happened this season, with all the shit it threw at us, the fact that you can see how much of a toll it took on me, how bad I was hurting inside, and I'll say I'm lucky that it wasn't as bad as what Aaron went through, what Emily and Will went through after all of that. And you can see how it's really affecting them. For me, it was all within me. It wasn't really anything I felt I had said or did. And so for me, having it all be inside me and knowing exactly what was happening, it was not easy. And so I think that it is something incredibly compelling because you're seeing, especially on Real Survivor, people really coming to terms with who they are and what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. For me, it was we've been saying, this whole double-edged sword thing, my biggest strength is I'm at my strongest when I'm building other people up and making people feel good. But that's also when I'm at my most vulnerable. And so to really internalize that was a difficult thing, to know that what I love so much, and that factors in so much of what I do now, what I want my career to be, like in museums, and I love it, and I love getting to make people's day and everything. And so like knowing that I'm also giving so much of my passion to that, just like I gave so much of my passion to Survivor. When you give so much of yourself, you also leave yourself with very little wiggle room, to make another obscure Survivor reference. So like you got to diffuse the tension a little bit, right? So I think it's just really compelling. And to that end, I do want to say, and I want to make sure I get this in there, like if anyone's watching this, like if you're going through something, if you're going through depression, anxiety, PTSD, whatever you're going through, you can make it. Like I made it. It's not easy. I still have my up days, my down days. It's a work in progress. It's a path we're always walking, but you have to keep putting one foot forward, and you have to learn something from every step you take. So even though I will characterize my Survivor Michigan experience as something with a lot of net negatives, sorry, Cooper, nothing on you, buddy, but like the positives I took away from it, the friends I made, I wouldn't have gotten to play Buffalo and met the entire amazing season 2 Buffalo cast. Love you guys. And like the friends I made from Michigan, the friends that I've made through interacting with the Survivor LRG community, and even the most important thing has been just a renewed love for Survivor, being able to watch the seasons and be like, I went through something similar, I can empathize with this. Like we talked about fatigue earlier, and in Winners at War, we saw Denise just saying, I'm done. And that was like, holy shit, I know what she's feeling because I was there. And hearing how like all these winners had trust issues after the show, like I was like that. I had all of these things that I can now empathize with, and that to me makes Survivor that much more of a compelling like experience to watch, and hopefully one day I get to play. And so like I'm so grateful for everything it's taught me, despite all of the tough stuff that it came with. I think it was definitely a necessary period that helped me grow. So I would not be where I am today without that.
Of course. And I
also
that was a lot of things. No, I think it's all part of your journey that we've been so privileged to share.
Yeah,
and
I'm privileged to share it.
Yeah, what I loved about this episode was you were like, look, I'm mad at them in the game. I'm not mad. I don't hate them in real life. And that is like the perfect sort of middle ground. Is we can be angry at each other in the game. We can be pissed off, but I'm not going to make it real. It's not a reflecting of anyone's character.
And I was always willing to give another chance and another chance and another chance. And so like, I think that I do my best to be as like empathetic as possible. I think it's got its limits, but like, you know, it was definitely learning a lot about like where, like I said, like where I'm strong, where I'm weak, what my limits are, where I can give a little bit more to some places than others. And so it's a really important experience for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of us found Survivor because it's something that we could relate to and care about the passions of people.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you to my ex-boyfriend who dumped me because then I watched a fuck ton of Survivor, and I wouldn't be here either without it. Yeah. And so I'm grateful for it.
All of like, it's like the existence of suffering sort of thing. It's like without the suffering, without a little bit of like hardship, you can't really grow. You can't. Like there's, I don't know if you guys watch Avatar at all, but the quote from
movie.
We don't talk about. There is no movie. There is no movie.
Are you talking about Avatar and $1 billion James Cameron?
Also, the movies that where are the sequels? Come on. But in Legend of Korra, when Aang says, "When we reach our lowest point, we are open to the greatest change." That's one of the quotes that like I will always take with me. Because I hit one of my lowest points I had ever hit. I had hit some pretty low points before that, but there were few moments in my life that can compare. And that's like, it feels so weird to say, like, I'm playing a little game for like no prize other than I love Survivor. And so to give myself to it as much as I did and to reach that low point, like to be able to come back from it, it took 2 years, but we got there. So it's a really important thing for me that like I'm always going to be really proud of how it's shaped me.
Good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I
we
don't
know
if
that
I'm
you have
being
to.
too melodramatic, but
No, not at all. I just know that you have to run soon because
Yeah.
you're going to be on the Keep Your Torch Lit podcast.
I am.
right
I'm
now.
about to go do that. I've been
Wow, transition.
Yes, I do want to say one more thing though. One more quote I want to share, if you don't mind.
Go. Keep Your Torch Lit can wait. Let's hear it.
Also, if me naming an entire Survivor tribe after where they film Australian Survivor isn't enough nod to know that I love International Survivor, go watch season 7 of Survivor South Africa. It's one of my favorite seasons. Amazing cast. There's one guy, Mike Venter. He follows me on Instagram, which I'm super fangirling about. And he was 21 when he played, so he was around the age. He was the age I was when I was playing. And he said something that has stuck with me ever since. It's when you can be kind, you must be kind, because there are lots of horrible things that go on under the surface. And I think if that's not something to take away from this season, I don't know what is. With everyone has their demons, everyone has shit going on, and I think the biggest thing we can do is, especially right now with the pandemic going on and the West Coast is on fire and everything, like we just gotta show some empathy. And I think especially in a game like Survivor, like College Survivor, where we're all a little bit crazy, we're all going nuts, we're all trying to kind of find what's making ourselves the strongest we can be and the best people we can be. Being really open to just being kind to each other is something that I really, really believe in. So that's really stuck with me.
Absolutely. And, Travis and I sort of coordinate these live games and host games, and it's always about being positive and having everybody walk away knowing that we had a fun time playing the game of Survivor or Big Brother or whatever it may be. And so I think it's a great reminder that right now we need to be very nice to each other because everything is going very difficult for a lot of people. Oh my God. I don't want to talk about it.
Queen Organa.
Oh man.
Hi Anders. Also, can we shout out Anders for his incredible work so far on Survivor Maryland? Episode 2 was a treat. Episode 1 was a treat. Season 6 was a treat.
You watched episode 2? It came out like 3 hours ago.
Yeah, I watched it live.
All right.
Like Anders, what you're doing, man, keep it up. All the work you put into it is so appreciated.
Love you, Anders.
Cooper.
Cooper, can you tell us a little bit more about what is coming up for Survivor Michigan?
Absolutely. Well, first, I just want to also shout out Anders. I am not ignoring your call out. I love you, Anders. But to get to your question, what is coming up? So we've got the episode this Wednesday. It's another absolutely fantastic one. There we go.
That's more
like it.
Standards.
Yeah, and then so we've only got 2 more episodes. We've got the final 6, and then it is the finale after that. So there are only 2 more episodes. I will come out and say that. And neither of them will disappoint. So this season has been fantastic at every turn. I don't think I can point to an episode and be like, this was kind of a down episode. Even with a unanimous vote, we had absolute chaos, right? Like this season was so fantastic. I think season 3 is regarded as one of, while it was happening, like every single vote, every single week, there was something interesting going on. And so this was a super fun season to put together, super fun season to watch back. And I'm hoping that you guys are all enjoying it too. And the end game will not disappoint you. So I cannot wait for everyone's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I hope you guys are all enjoying it. Hope you all take away something good for it, and stay tuned for future seasons because this season is a roller coaster. Get ready for the rest. It's so good. It was a privilege to be able to watch some other seasons play out.
We are so excited for the finale. I don't know. If Dylan doesn't win, I don't want to live in this world, but it's fine, I guess. It has been so much fun, Cooper and Austin. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
It really means the world to get to hear your perspective and to get the real inside scoop on everything. Travis, thank you for having us once again.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, and we're gonna close out. Tune in Monday, so Wednesday, right? Wednesday night at 7 or 8. I'm bad at times.
7.
I believe it
7
is
Eastern?
7 actually this time. We are going to do a actually I don't know if this has been announced yet. I'm going to just
I saw it on
the episode is
Instagram.
at
It's
7.
been announced.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, it has been announced?
Yeah, I saw it on Instagram.
Okay, then I am totally free to say this. I didn't want to get some backlash from our marketing team, but we are doing kind of a joint podcast after our episode with Survivor UVA, who is releasing their season 4, episode 1 at 9. So it's kind of back to back to back our episode, and then kind of a joint podcast to talk about everything as our finale is coming up. Their premiere is coming up, and then absolutely go watch Survivor UVA.
Which been watching the cast reveal.
Exactly. So glad they're coming back.
Is Survivor Northeastern still airing Wednesday right after us? I believe.
I know they were also coming up. Then Syracuse was coming out
Syracuse
soon. All these,
out.
yeah.
Then Survivor New York starting.
Yes, all these.
Survivor New York season 3, baby.
We
10 days.
We are living in a golden age of LRG Survivor right now. I've been privy to some stuff about Survivor Buffalo season 3, which just finished filming yesterday, and there's just so much good stuff on the horizon. I'm so grateful to be a part of this community. So there's if you haven't seen it, and then there's so much go watch Survivor Melbourne, go watch the Totem Pole. I can name drop all these things. Just go watch stuff.
And I will recommend.
There's so much.
Yes, Live Reality Games has groups for each individual sort of watch along. So if you want to have discussions, you just go to the groups section of the Live Reality Games Facebook link page. I don't know how to really describe it. They're you know what I mean. You go there, you can find groups for Michigan, Maryland, tons of UVA's group is coming out. Shout out to Genki, and it's gonna fucking slap. And this every show deserves love and support and views and YouTube comments and even a thumbs up. But hand out your thumbs, people. I don't know what you're doing. Don't be stingy.
If you don't have thumbs, like a pinky, I don't know.
Yeah, pinky. Yeah.
We're blessed with opposable thumbs. And then if there are any other questions you have that I didn't answer that Travis Naomi asked me, hit me up on Twitter at Natasu987. It's just a cheesy anagram of my name. Also find me on the Survivor Reddit Discord for the Survivor Michigan channel there. I'm also there. So love to interact with anyone who has questions. Thank you guys. For the fans who've been watching and commenting and discussing, it's been so fun to read, so fun to interact with you guys. So once again, I can't express how grateful I am to be able to do this and be able to get to talk to y'all. So
And finally, make sure to subscribe to the Live Reality Games YouTube channel and us on Spotify so you can hear every episode when it gets posted on Spotify. I don't know what the schedule is. All right, everybody. We are going to wrap this up so that Austin can make his famed appearance on Keep Your Choice, which everyone should also listen to.
Yeah, go watch, listen to that with Sam, Jack, and Sarah.
Exactly. All right.
And,
good night,
be
everybody.
Safe, wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Love each other.
Bye.
Bye, guys.